The six-figure salary headline is real, but it hides a brutal math problem nobody talks about. $40,000 entry level, $250,000 at the top. At least, that's what everyone thought. Houston area offshore workers pull in $100,000 to $200,000 annually. Onshore counterparts doing equivalent work? $40,000 to $100,000. That gap is hazard pay baked into the base rate. You are not earning more than your onshore counterpart. You are being compensated for what you are enduring. Nobody was paying attention to offshore pay structures back then. The recruitment ads were loud about the salary and quiet about everything else. That was about to change. Offshore workers do not operate on a traditional hourly wage. They work on day rates, a fixed amount paid per day during active rotation. It sounds clean. It sounds simple. It is neither. The standard rotation is 28 days on, 28 days off. And here is the part that almost never appears in the recruitment brochure. Those 28 days off are completely unpaid. Not partially compensated, not offset by a retainer. Unpaid, full stop. During those 28 days on the rig, workers are running 12-hour shifts 7 days a week. There is no overtime rate kicking in after 8 hours. There is no weekend premium. There is no holiday pay. Christmas on the rig pays exactly the same as a Tuesday in March. Now do the actual math. If a roughneck earns a day rate that translates to $80,000 annually, that sounds solid. But divide that $80,000 by the total hours actually lived on that job, including unpaid rotation time spent physically and mentally recovering, and the effective hourly rate drops dramatically. The median energy industry salary as of May 2024 sits at approximately $52,610. Not six figures. Not even close to the headlines dominating the conversation around offshore work. If that sounds bad, keep watching. The day rate system is not inherently predatory, but it creates a structure where the most visible number, the annual figure quoted in job postings, is almost always the least accurate representation of what a worker actually takes home relative to what they give up. Short, sardonic observations specific to the topic. You can make great money on a rig as long as you do not count the days you are not getting paid to recover from the days you were. That median figure of $52,610 would come back to haunt the industry's recruitment narrative. But that's getting ahead of the story. Offshore workers would look back on this moment and wish they'd made a different call. Specifically, the moment they accepted a day rate without calculating what the unpaid rotation actually cost them in real terms. Picture a pyramid rising out of the ocean. At the base, doing the hardest physical labor on the platform, are the roustabouts and roughnecks. These are the entry-level workers handling equipment, cleaning the deck, moving materials in conditions that would shut down most workplaces onshore. Their annual earnings land between $40,000 and $60,000. That is the floor of the offshore pay structure, earned through genuine physical punishment every single day of rotation. Move up one level and you find the drillers, the operators, the specialized technicians. These are workers who have put in the time, earned the certifications, and developed the kind of operational judgment that takes years to build. Mid-tier roles pull in $80,000 to $130,000 annually, still rotating on grueling schedules, still on the rig for 28 days straight. But the pay has moved into a range that starts to match the offshore narrative most people hear about. At the top sit the senior technical experts, the engineers, the tool pushers, the offshore installation managers, known as OIMs. These are the people responsible for the entire operation, the ones whose decisions affect every worker on that platform. Their compensation reaches $150,000 to $250,000 and beyond. They represent approximately the top 10% of the offshore workforce. Here is the critical point. That top 10% is driving the headline averages that everyone outside the industry sees. When a recruitment platform says offshore workers earn six figures, they are technically correct, but they are describing a minority of the workforce and presenting it as the norm. The entry-level worker at $50,000 and the OIM at $250,000 are both offshore workers. Only one of them is making the headline number. Experience and certification are the gatekeepers. Without them, the premium is completely inaccessible, regardless of how hard you work or how many rotations you complete. The rig does not reward effort alone. It rewards verified, documented competence, and getting there takes years. There is a before and after in offshore pay history, and both turning points arrived without warning, the way the worst ones always do. In 2010, the Deepwater Horizon disaster did not just kill 11 workers and devastate the Gulf of Mexico. It reshaped the entire compensation landscape of the offshore industry overnight. Regulatory crackdowns followed immediately. Drilling moratoriums froze operations across entire regions. Companies that had been expanding pulled back hard and fast. Mass layoffs followed. Workers who had spent years building leverage watched that leverage evaporate in weeks. Companies slashed day rates. The offshore premium, which workers had come to depend on, suddenly felt fragile in a way it never had before. And then the offshore workforce made the one decision that changed everything. They stayed. They absorbed the cuts, took the reduced rates, and waited for the rebound. Some of that rebound came, but it came slowly, and the industry that emerged from the Deepwater Horizon aftermath was leaner, more cautious, and less willing to pay the premiums experienced workers had previously commanded. Then 2020 arrived. COVID-19 hit an industry already carrying the scars of the previous decade. Oil prices did not just drop, they briefly went negative, a number considered theoretically impossible in modern energy markets. Projects were suspended mid-operation. Crews were stranded offshore as travel restrictions locked down ports and airports worldwide. Staffing cuts were severe. Workers who kept their jobs often did so at reduced rates. These two events, 2010 and 2020, created an entire generation of rig workers who carry a specific understanding that no paycheck, regardless of its size, is ever fully guaranteed. That understanding lives in the industry now. It shapes how workers negotiate, it shapes how they save, and it shapes what they are willing to endure to hold on to a job that pays what this one pays. After years of cuts and uncertainty, something shifted. The numbers started moving in a direction workers had not seen in over a decade. The Global Energy Talent Index, known in the industry as Getty, published its 2024 findings, and the headline was clear. Salary figures across the offshore and broader energy sector rose approximately 4% industry-wide. That might sound modest, but in a sector that had spent the better part of a decade suppressing wages and cutting costs, 4% represented a meaningful directional change. The more significant signal was buried slightly deeper in the data. 22% of offshore professionals received raises above 5% in the same period. That is not a cost of living adjustment. That is a retention premium. Companies that had spent years reducing headcount were now competing to hold on to the experienced workers who had survived the 2020 collapse. And those workers were finally in a position to demand something in return. The skilled labor shortage driving this dynamic is real, and it is structural. The offshore workforce shrank significantly during the COVID years. The workers who left did not all come back. Some retired. Some transitioned to other industries. Some simply decided the lifestyle was not worth returning to at any rate. The workers who stayed are now holding leverage they have not possessed in more than a decade. In the coming years, they would understand exactly what this meant for their negotiating position. The rebound is genuine, but it is not evenly distributed. Entry-level workers are not seeing the same gains as senior technical staff. The premium is concentrating at the top. The gap between the floor and the ceiling of offshore pay is getting wider, not narrower. And the workers at the bottom are watching the headline numbers rise while their own paychecks move much more slowly. Here is where the numbers stop and the reality starts. If you know someone on a rig right now, a family member, a friend, a partner, the figures we have been laying out either match their reality or they do not. And that gap between what the industry reports and what the person actually living it describes is worth paying attention to. If you have worked offshore yourself, you already know which numbers are real and which ones are the ones companies put in recruitment materials to make the math look cleaner than it is. Drop in the comments what you think is the most surprising part of offshore pay that outsiders never understand. Not the surface level stuff, the thing that took you by surprise. The number that looked different once you were actually on the platform and running the math yourself. And no, I'm not making that up. The gap between the perception and the lived experience of offshore pay is one of the most consistent themes in every conversation we have had building this channel. This channel exists because the real story of life on a rig is never told cleanly from the outside. The journalism covers the disasters, the recruitment ads cover the salary. Nobody covers the middle, the daily reality of what it actually costs to earn that paycheck and what it actually feels like to cash it. Everything the offshore industry had built around its pay narrative was about to work against them. The paycheck arrives, the number looks significant, and then you start counting what it actually bought. Now, the offshore lifestyle could have stopped at physical danger. They didn't. The total environment of a rig, the confinement, the noise, the constant motion of a platform on open water, creates conditions that compound over time in ways that do not show up on any payslip. Start with isolation. For 28 days, there is no family dinner. There is no spontaneous conversation with a friend. There is no ability to simply walk out the door and be somewhere else. The rig is a total environment. The exits are controlled, weather-dependent, and not available on request. Offshore workers describe the psychological weight of that confinement differently. Some adapt, some endure. Some never fully get comfortable with it, regardless of how many rotations they complete. The physical toll is documented and real. 12-hour shifts on moving, loud, dangerous equipment accelerate the kind of wear on the human body that most land-based careers spread across a much longer timeline. Joint damage, hearing loss, and fatigue-related health issues are not rare outcomes in this workforce. They are common ones. The mental pressure of rotation cycles, the monotony, the confinement, the emotional distance from everyone you care about, creates a psychological load that accumulates across years. It does not appear on any performance review. It does not factor into the day rate calculation. But it is real. Relationships absorb the cost in ways that are harder to quantify, but impossible to ignore. Divorce rates among offshore workers are a known industry reality. Missed birthdays, missed school events, missed moments that do not repeat. These are the specific price of the rotation schedule, paid in the currency of presence. The paycheck is not just compensation for labor. It is compensation for a lifestyle sacrifice that most people would refuse at any price. There is a reason people keep going back. And it is not just the money, though the money is a significant part of it. For workers coming from regions where high-paying alternatives are genuinely limited, parts of Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and comparable areas globally, the offshore premium is not an abstraction. It is a real and meaningful difference in what their life can look like. Even after accounting for the unpaid rotation time, the physical wear, and the isolation, the annual earnings available on a rig represent a financial trajectory that most blue-collar career paths simply cannot match at the same speed. The rotation model itself, despite its obvious drawbacks, creates something unexpected. 28 days off in a block is not the same as a standard weekend. Workers who approach it strategically use that time to build side businesses, invest in property, travel in ways that a standard 5-day workweek rarely permits. The block schedule, as punishing as the on-rotation side is, generates a kind of freedom on the off-rotation side that some workers come to value deeply. Career progression on a rig is also unusually structured and legible. Certifications translate directly into higher day rates. Time on deck is documented and recognized. The path from roustabout to driller to tool pusher is not invisible or dependent on office politics. It is a ladder with visible rungs, and workers who invest in their certifications can see exactly where each one takes them financially. The community forged on a rig is something that veterans of the industry describe with a consistency that is striking. Shared hardship creates bonds that workers return to. The people you rotate with become a second family, one built under pressure, in close quarters, with no option to disengage. That social fabric keeps many workers returning to rotations long after the financial incentive alone might have stopped being sufficient. The trade-off is conscious. You are selling weeks of your life in exchange for a financial position you could not reach as fast in any other blue-collar career. The workers who stay understand that equation completely. The real question is, what happened behind closed doors when the post-COVID rebound met the reality of corporate compensation strategies? Heading into 2025 and 2026, labor disputes and pay negotiations in the offshore sector are escalating in ways the industry has not seen in years. The rebound created worker expectations, reasonable ones, grounded in the leverage that a shrinking labor pool generates. Companies are now pushing back against those expectations, because pushing back is what companies do when the alternative is setting a precedent that raises the baseline permanently. Oil price volatility is the wild card that never goes away. When prices drop, companies cut day rates first and ask questions later. Workers who negotiated strong contracts in a high-price environment find those contracts under pressure the moment the market moves against them. Workers with rare certifications and deep operational experience are increasingly using that leverage to demand contracts that reflect the real cost of the lifestyle, not just the labor, but the isolation, the physical wear, and the years of unpaid rotation time the day rate system has always obscured, which, looking back, was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, depending on how the next price cycle lands. The tension between corporate compensation strategies and worker expectations is actively reshaping what competitive pay means in this industry. The outcome of negotiations happening right now will set the baseline for offshore pay for the next decade. The stakes could not be higher, and the workers who understand the real math are the ones driving the conversation. Divide the annual salary by the hours lived, add what you surrendered, then decide. The most experienced offshore workers talk about their rotation, not their salary. That video is on screen now.